She's been awarded NDTV's Young Philanthropist of the Year, the heiress of the HCL empire, 33-year-old Roshni Nader Malhotra. Many thanks, Roshni, for being with us here. And this makes a very, very special interview because with Roshni, we also have her father and mentor, none other than tycoon of the technology world, Shiv Nader, who's the founder of the $6 billion HCL group. Mr. Nader, Roshni, thanks so much for being with us here on this interview. Roshni, let me first congratulate you on this wonderful award. At 33, getting an award as a philanthropist, how does it feel? You yourself said philanthropy is an area where usually people enter when they're done with their innings in the world of business.
Firstly, NDTV, thank you so much for giving me this honor. I think it's very important because it's actually a symbol of me being in the right path, being on the right path, being on the right journey. It's good to know at a young age that at least you're pursuing an area which is considered to be very old, but it helps change lives.
So, Mr. Nader, I'd like to get your views really on the fact that Roshni has decided to focus just on the foundation right now. Many critics would actually say she's chosen the easier route. Would you agree with that?
You know, actually, I had to build a business group in my life so that I could do philanthropy towards the end of my business career. So far as she is concerned, her business start itself is not from scratch.
Right.
Her business start is, beginning with a multi-billion group. So for her, the start point would be as a CEO of the holding company and also on the boards of the companies.
Right.
Which is a level higher because today companies are board run. There are layers. There is executive run, there is board run, and then there are shareholders. Correct?
Right.
And she's come in at two layers, which is at the business layer, in the board level,
Sure.
as well as in the promoter level.
Right.
So I didn't inherit anything. So I had to start at the bottom. She had to start at a different layer.
There's clearly room to do a lot, and education is the area, Roshni, that Mr. Nader and you have really chosen. Why is it that you believe education is an area where your heart lies? And also tell us a little more about how you intend to take the foundation forward. I've heard you talk about creative philanthropy. Tell us what that concept really means.
So within the Shiv Nader Foundation, even though our area of focus is education, I've always told him that it's not education and literacy, it's education and leadership. So what we're trying to do as a foundation in our own humble way is not solve the problem of literacy in this country, but solve the problem of leadership in this country.
Okay.
And so if any of our initiatives that we worked on, we look at some of the great institutions that a lot of leaders globally as well as in India have come out with, even at the school level. And there was something they were able to do which created the foundation for them to become future leaders. And I mean, the election is going on right now, and there is a serious dearth of very intelligent, ethical, young leaders, not only political, but in different areas,
Right.
that come from the rural belt.
Yeah.
We don't have that. So when we looked at the Shiv Nader Foundation and what we wanted to focus on, whether it's at the school level or at the higher education level, it was specifically looking at this problem of leadership and looking at rural India.
Let me now move forward and talk to you a little more about the learnings you've had from your father, your mentor in many ways. Describe to us the Shiv Nader style of management.
One thing that I've found and learned, or still learning rather, but I think it's taking good shape, at least in my head,
Right.
is that when he founded HCL, I was very young. But as I grew older and HCL as it stands today kind of started taking shape, one thing that I found very interesting is his style of institution building. So he believes in the long term, in fact in the very, very, very long term.
Okay.
He believes...
He is a visionary. Everybody
he's a
knows that.
visionary.
Yeah.
But also in terms of the impact and the results, at least how I have perceived it is that it must be long term. So, you know, in the life of HCL, it's had its highs and lows, but there's a certain consistency which needs to be maintained. And I think when we talk about that consistency and excellence, I think when I apply that to even the institutions that we're creating within the foundation, I mean, the institution has to always be bigger than the individuals that founded it.
Right.
And the only way that's going to happen is if it's long term and it's able to absorb those shocks. It's got shock absorbers. So highs, lows. So it's a very long game. So, you know, when people ask me even about the foundation, or, you know, I hear from people that, oh, you're only touching 10,000 lives, and, you know, there are foundations that are touching million lives, you know. It's not a numbers game. It's actually a long run effectiveness game, at least as far as I'm concerned. And I think that's something that I've very, very much liked to emulate in life.
Okay, clearly quote. Yeah, sure, please, please, Mr.
Comment here. See, when she started seeing any bit of HCL,
right,
we let us say that she must have been 5 years old at the time.
right,
That's 1986. Her company was roughly 25 crores. 1,000 numbers is far out of reach. We couldn't even imagine that such numbers would exist. Okay. But from there on to 100,000 people and $6.5 billion, she's seen a way. I had institutionalized it because I always explained this to her. Said, finally you must want something that goes past you. Okay?
right.
And that goes without you. And that is something which she's trying to institutionalize. You know, what is a 20-year thing? It's a university, it'll take 20 years before it gets recognized, before it gets even known. Okay?
Right.
So that patience, that persistence is something I was trying to teach and trying to mentor her into. And that's how she's coming into all very long haul games. But that's the impact. Impacted HCL is run by its leaders. So can we create such leaders which we can build in the institutions and be in the business of building them?
And that's perhaps something that sets HCL apart, whether it's in the technology space or whether it's in the larger corporate India space. The fact that you've created leaders, the fact that you're almost hands-off now from the business, is that a correct description? Yeah, you are hands-off. But can the HCL group really survive without Shiv Nada? That's the point,
yes.
Because, you know, we know you've created a set of leaders. We know it's working on autopilot now. How involved are you really with the operational aspects of the two listed entities, with the business? Because we'd like to know a little more about that, or are you only focusing on the foundation now?
Okay. See, there are few things which I do. The best of strategy leaders would always like to go to a group. Okay. And just to second thing it, or if they choose not to, they go ahead and do it because they know that the institution is bigger than me. So they go ahead and do it, or second check. Whenever they second, most of the times the strategies which are being run, I'm mentally rerunning it somewhere else to see, is there a possible, you know, flaw in it, or have they thought through all the issues? I don't necessarily go through it. Second point, what I do is think of ideas which should be impactful 15 years later. Okay? I don't look at whether I run it or not. It's irrelevant. Okay? I think I went past that stage long time ago. So these are the two things which I primarily do.
So separating ownership and management, I think that's been critical.
Absolutely, yes.
And that's very important, and that's the style that you've also followed. At the same time, you continue to remain chairman. You're there. You're there for the leaders to look up to. Any plans of retiring anytime soon, of simply just letting go? No?
Let go, yes. Retiring, no. I would
Retiring,
always
no.
be doing something.
Yeah, but retiring, I meant from the business, the fact that
Operationally, I have not been involved for a very long time.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So in that sense, you've already
20 years ago, I said that now others will run this place. Otherwise, what will happen is it will become dependent on me. It will become a burden on me, and I am a burden on it. So,
But how do you respond to many other companies or institutions where the founders have had to go back because simply the institution could not run without them?
fortunately, such a thing, will never come in HCL. Because look at a different thing. Huh? I'm very proud of this. This industry is mostly run by people who have left HCL
Right.
or they are in HCL.
Right.
So there are only.
It's like NDTV, we say in the media space.
That's actually
Right.
true.
Right.
They are part of creating this industry and then creating the leadership for this industry. We're very proud of it.
At the same time, you lost one of your best leaders from the company, Vineet, and many would say that transition is something which would impact HCL in some way. Do you think it has impacted HCL in any way?
HCL has not been impacted by leaving of any leader, and that includes me. That includes one person who built HCL technically
Right.
is one of its founders, Raman.
Yes, of course.
Okay, finally he passed away,
Right.
and his health deteriorated at a certain time. He was the toughest and probably one of the brightest men I've ever seen. Very proud that he was my colleague for a long stretch. And then the leadership just sprouts up.
Right.
Finally, does the company have the culture of handing over leadership to someone younger and then trust that person so totally, and then a new leader comes up? This is truly long live the king. The king is dead. So,
Right. I know you don't want to talk about the business too much, but I have to ask you, as someone who's really the pioneer of the IT space, where do you see the IT industry growing? There are many people who now believe it's clearly no longer the sunrise industry. Many feel that...
No. That's India's sunrise is just around the corner, okay? Because Silicon Valley and India will connect, okay?
They already have, yeah.
Yes. No, will connect in the sense of why not the next Google?
Coming
Why
out
not
of-
the next
right,
Facebook?
right.
I don't want to name any other institution, but if you go back any institution, which came right in the middle of 70s is when modern computing started. Okay. And any company which was before that, 40 years is not a very long time for corporations of that nature who worked in 100 countries at that time. Okay.
Right.
But they all become legacies.
Sure.
And now if you go and say, those who were born between mid-70s to 2000, how many are there? Even they are called legacies.
Right.
They all may have tens of billions of dollars in their balance sheet. But do shareholders want to go there? No, they want to go chase a new idea.
We're in the midst of election season, so I have to take a perspective from both of you on what are your expectations from the next government. Let's start with India's future. Roshni, as a young Indian, what do you expect the new government to put in place almost immediately? We need to bring India's growth back on track.
I can only really comment on the education
Sure.
space because that's what I'm most focused on. So again, I had mentioned this before, but specifically talking about school reform and what we need to do at the government schools level, what we need to do at the rural level, and also we are pro RTE. when it comes to the school system, and I know it's a state system. So, but I think a little more direction from the government to how to implement it.
Right.
A little more direction from the government generally in terms of admission norms.
Sure. It's been a nightmare this
It's
year.
been
with,
a nightmare.
with
I mean, I've got
admissions,
friends who are going through this.
Yeah.
And of course, we as private institutions, I have no problem if we're mandated to play our part.
Right.
But what is the government doing?
Yeah.
You know, I've visited a lot of government schools within rural UP as well as in Delhi in the NCR region. There's a lot to be done. And most importantly, I don't know if the government has a robust system of really generating good educators and teachers. There's a serious dearth, and that's where the problem lies. So I would really like to see some reform in the education sector, specifically to do with school education. I hope there's something refreshing that comes along.
Right, a long way to go, and of course, is the government outsourcing its own duty with the RT Act is something we can debate for a long time. But Mr. Nada, your thoughts? We just have a few days to go. A new government will be in place. A lot needs to be done.
We were going to be in the middle of the world. Okay. We are moving very well along in that. In between, something which they couldn't handle is what happened in the last few years.
What went wrong according to you?
It's come up a lot. You know, it's an issue of the government's moral right to rule.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if it comes out, when it spills out, which is very good, okay, the media had a great role in spilling it out. Okay. I'm asked this question. You know, I meet the global leaders.
Right.
And I meet it all the time because I still travel a great deal.
Sure.
Okay. When they ask, I said, this is a reflection of the depth of democracy in our country.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's one country which is now going to turn dictatorial. Okay. And it is like a very bad wound, you know, before it heals. There'll be pus that'll come out, and there'll be a bit of blood also that's going to come out.
At what
Okay.
stage are we of that
I
wound
think we
healing?
are cutting it, and then it'll heal from now, because
From now.
So it hasn't
The
started.
worst is over according to you.
according to me, the worst is over. Because look at it differently. Where is the world's money going to go? Look at it confidently. Okay. How many choices do they have? Okay.
Right.
And in that, the growth takes place. I met the true leaders of the world's business. I asked them, they asked all these questions. They said, now sit down and tell us about this. Okay. Real serious business leaders, 100 billion plus companies.
Sure.
And say that now, at the end of the day, we all have to go to India. He says, why? Because there is another system which find it equally difficult to deal with. Okay. And growth is not going to come for us in mature economies.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to come from emerging economies.
Mm-hmm.
We have to go to 2 countries. If you're not there, the boards will, you know, shut them down. They'll
Right.
tell you.
Right.
Now, the last excuse that you have is that, you know, it's not a clean place to do business with.
Yeah.
When that's gone,
Yeah. Do you see that going soon?
I just hope so.
Okay.
Now I'll have to qualify that. And
Yeah.
I believe that, you know, money is waiting absolutely round
To
it.
flow into
You
India,
will
yeah.
just see, when you're doing interviews for NDTV, you should pack at least 20 slots for the most influential business leaders that will
Wow.
come here, because after the new government sets in the first 9 months before March, you will see them. I'm talking about
I think
20.
it's
And I'll come back to you 9 months later and confirm if
Yeah,
that has
that-
happened.
20 business leaders have confirmed to me they are coming, and I have already been thought, do you have time around that time to meet you? I'm sure
Wow.
they'll meet
I
the
think
ministers
you've got a
here.
good new series on your hand.
Absolutely, absolutely. But that's
they-
wonderful to hear.
yeah.
You're saying that they're just waiting on the sidelines, let the elections
gonna
get
show up.
over and money will flow in.
They're going to show up. I've already worked out my travel plans. As I travel a lot, there's no point traveling because they're all coming here.
Wow. And that means the India story is alive and kicking, the slowdown
The
notwithstanding.
rest of the stories are diminishing also.
Sorry?
The rest of the stories are diminishing also.
Okay.
You see the BRICS,
Right. Right.
you know, You know Russia, you know Brazil, you know South Africa.
But critics of India say that India has fallen off the map, and India doesn't even figure within the BRICS now anymore, and nobody's talking about
The BRICS
India.
don't
We've
figure,
messed up. The BRICS don't figure actually.
BRICS don't figure.
Right.
But
India figures according to you.
No, where will they go?
Yeah.
Be more confident about it.
They have to be
Where will they go?
and I
Finally,
like
there
that
is a lot of
point.
money waiting there. They will all, once you show up and say, yes, now we are having a clean room in this place, they'll all take the money and say that, is there a place where we can put it? They're going to be
And the
there.
confidence, I'd just like to end on that note. Do you think corporate India has not been confident in the last few years? Because that's something that the government has pointed out time and again, that
Because
that corporate India has been a bit too critical.
No, highly India-focused companies
Right.
have had a lot of losses to pick up.
Sure.
It's been very difficult period.
Right.
Okay. And the economy, when it is 4% of 4.5% or 5% growth, whatever that is shown, okay, it's not bad for an economy of our size. But if it is not coming from the industries such as manufacturing, which our country is very good at, corporate leadership is very good at, if it is not doing that, then naturally they'll lose heart.
Right.
Now, if that gets cleaned up, there is enough of the world to go up.
So you're saying the economy is looking up no matter which government is
It
coming
will
to
look
power.
up
Is
because
that correct?
There is going to be money chasing it.
All right, money is chasing India, and that's clearly music to everyone's
will
ears.
chase it.
Money will chase India, and that's
And I can
music to
tell
our
you,
ears.
those 20 people will show up. 100 billion plus companies.
100 billion plus companies will
Will
show
be
up
here.
in India in the next 9 months.
Yeah, not 9 months from tomorrow.
From
after
the
June.
new after
Yeah.
once the new government is in
Absolutely,
place,
yes.
100 billion plus companies will show up in
Absolutely,
India, and
yes.
they will want to do business in India.
Yes.
The problems notwithstanding, the issues notwithstanding, India is a good
I'm
place to
asking
do
you the
business.
question.
Where
they
else
have
will
the
they go?
money, where else will they go?
Okay, it's a process of elimination, if nothing else. Right, Mr. Nadam, many thanks for talking to us. Roshni, it's been a pleasure. We really
you so
do
much.
hope that your words come true. It's something that India is waiting for. But for now, here's wishing both of you all the very best with all the exciting work that the Shiv Nadar Foundation is doing. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Breaking Market